Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MALDEF's first ever national online fundraiser, a virtual extravaganza. Thank you for joining us as we look back at some of MALDEF's most memorable moments, featuring several of our renowned past honorees, and remarks from MALDEF President and General Counsel Thomas Saenz on our post-Trump future. While we can't host you in person this year, we are proud to bring you this presentation as a gift that we hope provides a measure of joy and encouragement. MALDEF is grateful to Verizon, our national corporate sponsor, as well as all of our sponsors. And if you are able, please consider making a donation by going to www.maldef.org/donate. Now make yourself as comfortable as possible as we begin the program. And remember, chanclas are optional, but not for throwing. And have that drink ready. Damas y caballeros, please join me in welcoming MALDEF's special guest master of ceremonies, Emmy Award-winning journalist and television host of ABC's What Would You Do, John Quiñones.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to MALDEF's first ever national online extravaganza. 2020, what a year. Of course, MALDEF canceled all of their in-person gala fundraisers this year. So tonight will be a little different, just as this past year has been oh so different for all of us. We look forward to next year when we can celebrate each other's company again. But tonight, let's take a look back at past honorees who continue to inspire us, something we could really use right now. You'll be amazed by the words of some of MALDEF's most celebrated honorees, familiar faces that continue to do incredible work. Jose Andres, Eva Longoria, Linda Ronstadt, Dolores Huerta, Rita Moreno, and others. You'll be able to sit back and enjoy as we come together tonight from all across the nation as one community. We're here not only to celebrate MALDEF's work over the past year, but also to be honest about how far we still have to go. On behalf of MALDEF, I thank each one of you for joining us. Before we hear from the friends that MALDEF has honored over the years, lift your glasses. Here's a toast to you. Tonight would not be possible without your support. So gracias and salud. We're very grateful that you continue to stand with us, whether it's $5 once, $100 a month, or $50,000. Every single donation matters, and it's used where it's needed the most. Now let's start the show with remarks from one of MALDEF's distinguished leaders. Please welcome MALDEF Board Chair, Mr. Marcus Allen.
Thank you, John. What an honor to have you host this event tonight. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm very grateful to be part of an organization that has worked tirelessly to fight for the civil rights of Latinos and the constitutional rights of all Americans. I'm here tonight because I cannot stress enough the importance of what MALDEF does as a legal voice for civil rights in America, and I hope that you will continue to support our mission. Whether it's employees' rights, access to education, immigrants' rights, or voting rights, MALDEF has been there. Over 52 years later, and during a worldwide pandemic, MALDEF is still breaking down barriers. I know that times have been more than challenging for so many of us this year, but we cannot forget about the devastating impact on our community. There are still people being separated from their loved ones. There is still workplace discrimination. There are still DACA recipients afraid that their legal status might be in jeopardy. There is still a lot to fight for, and we are. But we cannot do it without your support. Like MALDEF supporter and television host of Last Week Tonight, John Oliver, said, if you can afford the time or money, make a donation to MALDEF. Look, the damage done over the last 4 years will continue to affect our community into the future, and we need organizations like MALDEF to continue to protect our rights. So please, if you can, give. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus, for your important message and for your work. You know, over the years, MALDEF has successfully challenged unfair redistricting, unconstitutional legislation, illegal voter suppression, California's notorious Proposition 187, and so much more. This year, MALDEF has taken on cases defending mixed-status couples who were denied a stimulus check during the COVID-19 pandemic. They've defended DACA recipients who are victims of employment discrimination and successfully challenged the federal government's attempt to decrease the number of Latinos responding to the 2020 census count by adding questions about citizenship status. So many victories, but still a long road ahead, and MALDEF will continue to fight the good fight. To tell us more about the organization, we have three distinguished speakers: former Los Angeles County Supervisor Gloria Molina, MALDEF President and General Counsel Thomas Saenz, an actress, producer, director, former MALDEF board member, and the recipient of the MALDEF 2009 Excellence in Community Service Award, Eva Longoria.
MALDEF was created by a group of community leaders in the Latino community, lawyers and others, who saw the need in the court system for representation of the Latino community and an organization that was dedicated to promoting the civil rights of Latinos. At the time, in 1968, the Latino population was concentrated in the Southwest, as well as with pockets in Chicago, New York, and Florida. And in all of those areas where there were significant Latino populations, there were widespread patterns of exclusion, discrimination at work, discrimination in the schools, discrimination throughout society. And there was a need to be able to call on a legal organization to challenge that exclusion and discrimination in the courts.
There's many components of what MALDEF does: litigation, advocacy, and education. And MALDEF has been uncompromising in its efforts to advance the education levels of Latinos in America.
Our effort is to ensure that every Latino has the rights guaranteed them by the Constitution, whether that's in education, or in employment, or in voting, or in ensuring that laws don't target Latinos or others based on their immigration status or their assumed immigration status.
As we all know, the anti-immigrant rhetoric hits across the board and has had such a tremendous impact. But the work that MALDEF has done in showing that this Constitution is to work for every single one of us has been so very effective. And it's unfortunate that we have to go to this level, but again, our civil rights are not going to be won by just talking about it. It's going to be about taking the kind of legal action that we need to take in our courts. But if you don't have MALDEF and the kind of experience and tenacity and devotion of lawyers, as well as the talent of those lawyers, nothing will change. And our community benefits by MALDEF's work.
What I'm most proud of about MALDEF is how it has withstood the test of time as an organization for the advocacy and litigation and education of Latinos in America, and that they have been surviving and fighting relentlessly to protect the constitutional rights of Latinos living in America. I take pride in that. I take pride in knowing not only I'm a board member, but knowing that our community is in great hands.
So I'm proud of the efforts of our policy staff, of our legislative attorneys nationwide, from DC to all of the state capitals, in working to ensure that we have laws that better protect the civil rights of Latinos and better serve our national interests in inclusion and incorporation of all communities in our future progress. But we also recognize that the opportunities to push back on those who would seek to restrict the rights of Latinos, who would seek to restrict the application of our longstanding constitutional principles and values, those opportunities, coupled with the challenges of a growing demand for our services, is something that the dedicated staff of MALDEF is looking forward to pursuing with great vigor throughout this decade.
It is a new era. The landscape of America has been changing in a Latino way for a while. I see great things for MALDEF. The future is bright for MALDEF. They have proven time and time again that they are the first organization to take action legally and say, we are going to protect our community through the Constitution of the United States. Great things lie ahead. Every challenge that is going to face the Latino community, MALDEF welcomes it.
I'm inspired. Now, we have a clip from MALDEF's Washington, D.C. gala in 2016 featuring the wonderful and generous Jose Andres, chef and owner of Think Food Group. He's also the founder of World Central Kitchen and the recipient of MALDEF's Excellence in Community Service Award.
Let's do this. Thank you very much. I kind of cry. I'm very sentimental. This is who we are. This is what we bring. We bring diversity. We bring acceptance that we belong to America, that we love America, but we are enriching America, but being who we are. Not getting together and agreeing on what song to sing together, but doing it at the end with happiness and always looking forward. And let me tell you, thank you to everybody that is involved in MALDEF for this award and for the job you guys do, the hard work you do, representing so many millions of people, as Regina said, to become the voice of the voiceless. The history of this country and the world is really a tale of the conflict between two forces, the forces of inclusion and the forces of exclusion. You know what? The forces of inclusion include love and welcome and hospitality and unity and harmony and belonging. These forces break down barriers and bring people together. They tear down walls and build bridges. They promote, yeah, you can clap. Oh, yeah. They promote cooperation and unity and community and prosperity and happiness. They tear down walls and build bridges. But my friends, the forces of exclusion include hate and envy and anger and suspicion and division and isolation. These forces build barriers, borders, barricades, and some people call them walls. Unfortunately, those forces promote conflict, inequality, violence, dislocation, war. Then we have to agree that these two forces, exclusion and inclusion, change people. If you are in a hall like this one or watching a speech on TV news, any moment of the day, and a speech is being given on live TV, even if you don't understand or hear what they were saying, and in my case you understand that happens often, because nobody understands my accent very much, you can actually tell the kind of a speech that the person is giving by the emotions in the hall. If people are tense and angry, they are hearing a speech of exclusion. If people are open and happy, they are hearing a speech of inclusion. My friends, these are the two great forces of history, the two great impulses of human nature, to include and to exclude. We all have both impulses inside of all of us. We are the ones deciding which one we emphasize. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think we can have a society of total inclusion. We need to have laws, we need to have limits, we need order. But I'm only saying that if we have it in our hearts to work toward ever greater inclusion, including others, we are moving towards happiness. But if we set out the goal of excluding others, we are going to be moving our society and our country towards unhappiness. So my friends, that's why I'm so happy to be receiving this award. Not only by being here and being able to talk to you, but somehow to really celebrate the amazing work that MALDEF do. Yes, you can clap. What MALDEF do is that you can be from any political party you wish to be. That's what we are in America, for you to decide who you want to support. But though I don't care who do we support, we only need to support people, organizations that they believe that inclusion is going to be making us stronger, that inclusion is going to be building bridges, that inclusion is going to make sure that we all together work toward making this country obviously the best country that we've ever seen in the history of humanity. And that anybody else that don't believe in this simple message just don't deserve to be anywhere around us. People of America, let's all believe in inclusion. Let's all believe that as the Latino community, we will be the biggest force of inclusion ever seen in the history of America and in the history of the world. Thank you very much. Buenas noches.
The importance of inclusion and having empathy for others. I see it on my show very often. What would you do? Incredible to think that Jose said those words in April of 2016. At the Los Angeles Gala in 2018, we honored the first Latina to create, produce, write, and star in her own U.S. primetime comedy. She's the hilarious comedian and recipient of MALDEF's Leadership in the Arts Award, Cristela Alonso.
I would like to begin by thanking MALDEF for the honor tonight. I have to be honest, I don't think I've ever done anything special to deserve any kind of honor. I think that what I do is my duty to continue the legacy of my immigrant mother, a woman that came here in search of a better future for her family. I'm grateful that you have taken a moment to acknowledge the hard work that my home of the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas has done. I accept this award, this honor, on their behalf, because I would not have the opportunities I would have been given if it hadn't been for the community that helped raise me. So I believe they deserve the award more than I do. I want to thank the Rio Grande Valley for teaching me the values, the meaning of hard work, and compassion. And I thank them by giving back to my Latino community to ensure that we are recognized for the loving people we are. My goal is to give a voice to the voiceless and give a heart and soul to my community. I want the poor to know they're loved. I want the country to know we're good people. I want to battle the negative narrative our community constantly has depicted. I also want to thank MALDEF for the work you do in battling the same things for our community. You strive to do the exact same thing, and that is make our people be seen as real people with hearts and with souls. If you haven't already, please consider donating to MALDEF. A donation to them is a donation to our future. Y quiero tomar este momento para también darle las gracias a todas las personas aquí que hablan en español. Que a lo mejor no pueden hablar o entender el inglés. Los sacrificios que ustedes han hecho son ejemplos de lo que nuestra comunidad es capaz. Nosotros estamos aquí por el trabajo y las batallas que ustedes han hecho. Les quiero dar las gracias a ustedes, la comunidad que me acuerda de mi mamá. El espíritu de mi mamá, el espíritu de nuestra comunidad, la fuerza de nuestra comunidad. Having said that, I want to thank my mother for never understanding that she did the biggest sacrifice of all by coming to this country. I want to thank my home, the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. I want to thank my Latino community. And remember, We are so much stronger than what we are given credit for. Sí se puede.
Sí se puede, indeed. So motivating to hear Cristela speak. You know, I too come from Texas, and I'm proud of the work that MALDEF has done, not just in my hometown of San Antonio, but across the state of Texas and, of course, throughout the entire nation. Next, we have the Honorable Jesus Chuy Garcia of the Illinois 4th Congressional District in Chicago. At our 2016 gala, he was the recipient of MALDEF's Excellence in Government Award.
Thank you so much for being here tonight for MALDEF and for hitting the financial goals that were set on the spur of the moment, it looked like. Casi. My relationship with MALDEF goes way back to the 20th century, as a matter of fact. When I was working as a paralegal at the Legal Assistance Foundation of Chicago, and we're dealing with all kinds of cases that just came to legal aid on 16th and Blue Island Avenue. And some of the cases that came to me, where people were looking for help, had to do with undocumented children being denied enrollment into Chicago public schools. So who did I call? I called MALDEF. And MALDEF came to the rescue. They called, they visited schools, they wrote letters, they had the big stick, and they had the law on their side. So that's where my journey with MALDEF began. And it didn't end there. In 1977, I went to my first field trip to Springfield. It wasn't for 8th grade, it wasn't for high school. It was because crazy legislators in Illinois had decided that they were going to regulate immigration, which is Congress's role, and they started legislating, they attempted to legislate crazy things like employer sanctions, denying public education to children in Illinois, denying social services to legal residents and to the undocumented, and including emergency medical services. We went to Springfield, and that was a real awakening. It was on my day off. I was working for the Legal Services Corporation, so you can't do any of that stuff. So we went down there to do advocacy work. What we discovered on that field trip was that Latinos in Illinois, as it relates to the Legislative Assembly, didn't exist. They were unknown, invisible. People looked at us pretty awkwardly when we were down there. But we also had the opportunity to meet good legislators. They were African American, and they were Jewish, and they were progressives from all over the city of Chicago. We came back understanding what being invisible and powerless is all about, and that was the beginning of an effort that said, we need to get involved in politics, we need to elect our own to represent our community, and that was the beginning of a new relationship. Thus, in 1982, I was given the task of finding a plaintiff to sue the city's discriminatory ward map that denied our community an opportunity to elect our own. I found a recently registered 18-year-old woman from Little Village. She became the lead plaintiff in that case. Make a long story short, we won. A new election, a new map was drawn as a result of MALDEF's intervention in the federal courts. It went to the Court of Appeals. A new election was held. We elected 4 Latinos to the Chicago City Council. It helped Harold Washington gain a majority in the City Council. So it's been a great odyssey, a great journey, and it's not over. I left some things out here that I was going to say, but they said 3 minutes. It's not over because just 2 weeks ago, I retained my organization, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, to represent the people of the state of Illinois in forcing the state to comply with a law that was passed within the last 2 years that obligates the governor to say who he has appointed to boards and commissions in the state of Illinois. So I'm proud to say I'm currently a plaintiff for the community, and MALDEF is my representative in court. Thank you so much. Thank you for the award.
Thank you, Representative Garcia, for all you do. Next up, a clip from our 2019 Los Angeles Gala. That's when the recipient of MALDEF's Leadership in the Arts Award was the brilliant actress and dancer you'll recognize from the beloved TV show One Day at a Time, Justina Machado.
Oh my God, thank you, MALDEF, for this incredible honor. I am so grateful that I can do what I love, live my dream, and in doing that, I can make a little bit of a difference. You know, when you're a kid and you're growing up and you have all these big dreams, you're usually only thinking about yourself, like, what can I do? Where do I have to go? Who do I have to meet? When am I gonna be a star? And then you kind of get to Hollywood, and then reality hits you in the face. And you realize that being an artist doesn't give you a pass. It's still the world that you have to deal with. And then you realize that you're not just doing it, you can't do it alone, and you're not just doing it for yourself. So because of that, I am really proud of every character I've ever portrayed. I'm proud of every job I've ever done. Because I know that there's somebody out there that looks like me, that sounds like me, that came from where I came from, and they go, okay, I can do that too. Because I know this is said to nauseam, pero sí se puede, mi gente. Todo es posible. Todo.
You can't do it alone, and you're not just doing it for yourself. So well said. As so many of you know, it's so important to put in the work now and pave the way for future generations of Latinos, the same way other Latinos have done for us. Now, we have the Honorable Henry Cisneros, a good friend of mine and the founder and chairman of City View. He's also, of course, the former mayor of San Antonio and recipient of MALDEF's Lifetime Achievement Excellence in Public and Community Service Award. Here's a clip of Henry at the San Antonio Gala in 2018.
As for my presence here, let me just say thank you to MALDEF. You grow up in life and you know that there are things that need to be changed and you want to change them. And when I came out of graduate school and came back to San Antonio, I had seen what was working in other cities in the country. And I always thought that the fundamental problem in San Antonio was the unfairness. The fundamental problem was the poverty, the grinding poverty. We grew up on the West Side, and it was, just obvious that there was vast differences. The era when CBS came and did a special on poverty in San Antonio before the country, and people lived in corrales on what is now the UTSA campus downtown with pit privies as restrooms outside. And the Peace Corps sent people here to prepare for third world conditions before they sent them abroad when the Peace Corps was first put together. So there was just real problems. And I thought that the best strategy was to grow the economy and create jobs and build a middle class. And I still believe that that is important. But when you get into a position, I was a city council member in 1975, the world queues up choices and you have to make decisions, and they sort of make you prove what you really believe. So we had issues in those days, and MALDEF was involved in many of them, but issues like the question of whether we're going to protect the city's water supply in the Edwards Aquifer and stand up to the developers who wanted to extend more lines over the sensitive recharge areas, and issues like one of the big ones, 1977, MALDEF was involved in helping the Justice Department declare our system of at-large voting a system that didn't represent the people, and it was true. There was 9 city council members on the city council, 2 Latinos in a city that was 65%, 60% Mexicano at the time, 1 African American, and 5 city council members who lived within a few miles of each other on the northwest side of the city. Justice Department came in and said, that is not going to fly. We're going to change the system. MALDEF helped create the districting system that we didn't think could be passed, that the city would accept. But we put it to a vote and worked hard for it. And in the final analysis, by 1 vote per precinct, we ended up with a system that has fundamentally altered the trajectory of San Antonio. Fair representation. MALDEF did that. And a lot of other people. Southwest voter, Willie Velasquez, the great Choco Mesa. I'll never forget all of the people who were working the computers and working the maps to make that happen. I want to express my deepest appreciation to Tom Saenz, who presently leads MALDEF, as we know. Thank you for bringing the spirit that you do, the spirit of MALDEF. He's a fighter. He's uncompromising. He's capable in the law. When they talk about the best of the lawyers, Tom Saenz is the best we've got. And so, Tom, thank you very much for what you represent.
Now, before we move on to one of the most iconic voices of our time, let's hear from MALDEF's 2020 Extravaganza national sponsor, Verizon. Please welcome the Executive Director of Public Policy and Strategic Alliances and member of the MALDEF Board of Directors, Emilio Gonzalez.
As a proud member of the MALDEF Board of Directors and as this year's national sponsor for this convening, I'd like to just take a moment and share my observations and passion for this wonderful organization. Whether in my early years starting out on Capitol Hill or later as an appointee in the Clinton administration, or now in my 17th year at Verizon, I have seen firsthand the important work that MALDEF does on a daily basis. I'm a big admirer of its people, its commitments, and its work. If you are a sponsor of MALDEF, thank you. If you're considering being a sponsor, please do so. Check them out. This is a wonderful organization that has its eyes on the prize on behalf of the Latino community and of civil and human rights nationwide. I thank you. Thank you for listening.
To all our Verizon employees, we've never been so proud of our technicians, engineers, store employees, and customer service reps who are doing critical work all over the country. At a time when the country is forced to be apart, you're helping us come together. Our customers are making an average of 800 million calls and 8 billion texts per day, and you've kept our network reliable through it all, keeping people connected and safe at home. So thank you. Because of you, we're here and we stand ready.
Thank you, Verizon, and gracias, Emilio, for your years of support. Now, for that iconic voice, an incredible musician with a career that spans more than 4 decades. She's the recipient of MALDEF's Lifetime Achievement Leadership in the Arts Award at the Los Angeles Gala of 2011, Linda Ronstadt.
Ya no me cantes cigarra, que acabe tu sonsonete, que tu canto aquí en el alma como un puñal se me mete, sabiendo que cuando cantas, pregonando vas tu muerte. Marinero, marinero, dime si es verdad que sabes, porque distinguir no puedo, si en el fondo de los mares hay otro color más negro que el color de mis pesares.
She's become our voice in many ways, a very important voice. You can't underestimate the power of Linda Ronstadt.
We all have, in different stages of our life, in different generations, a connection that has the stamp of Linda Ronstadt. You know, and it's one that, on a personal level, I'm very proud, and two, on a very general level, I think that she really enhanced the value of who we are and how proud a community we are and how valuable we are to this country.
Hay otro color más negro que el color de mis pesares.
Wow, Canciones de Mi Padre became a multi-platinum success and is still the biggest selling Spanish language CD in the history of the U.S. music industry. What an incredible impact Linda Ronstadt has had. This next person hardly needs an introduction. In 2010, in Washington, D.C., MALDEF paid tribute to this remarkable woman. She's the co-founder of the United Farm Workers of America and the Dolores Huerta Foundation. She's a social justice activist and the recipient of MALDEF's Lifetime Achievement Excellence in Community Service Award. Here's a true hero, Dolores Huerta.
We are going to embark on a massive campaign, educational campaign in the state of Arizona to let the residents and the citizens of Arizona know what the contributions are of immigrants to the state. The millions of dollars that they contribute in taxes, the billions of dollars that they contribute to Social Security, all of the contributions that they make with the sweat of their brow and the work that they do in our fields, in our homes, in our buildings, serving people all over the state of Arizona.
Dolores is still a most inspiring activista, si se puede. Now, we can't have our first national extravaganza without including a clip of a most legendary icon. She is an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Award-winning actress and the recipient of MALDEF's Lifetime Achievement Leadership in the Arts Award. And here she is at the 2016 Los Angeles Gala Awards. Rita Moreno.
Yo sé lo que son los encantos
Tierra de mi amor,
de mi Borinquen hermosa,
mi perfumada flor.
Por eso la quiero yo tanto. Por siempre la llamaré preciosa, isla del Caribe. Preciosa te llaman las olas del mar que te baña. Preciosa por ser un encanto, por ser un Edén.
Oh, I couldn't help it. I'm such a hambo. That is one of the loveliest tributes I have ever had. And I'm going to request, please, Tomas, that, may I have it? That's lovely. Thank you so much. My God. You know that was from my album, right? Now you have to get it, right? Okay. Once I finish with this, I want to make a special statement. Actually, this is very special too, because I really labored over this, particularly since the since the election. So let me start by saying this: that someone once observed our wretched species. They said that our wretched species is so made that those who walk on the well-trodden path always throw stones at those who are showing a new road. Actually, that was Voltaire. Since 1968, MALDEF has provided a shield for those who have forged new paths for Latinos in areas such as education, immigration, employment, and voting rights. Just 5 years before MALDEF's founding, a 32-year-old woman sat on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial listening to a 34-year-old black preacher from Atlanta, seated so close that she saw the sweat on his brow. "I have a dream," he declared, "that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." And this young woman turned to hear Mahalia Jackson, the Queen of Gospel, sing out to Dr. King, "Tell him about the dream, Martin. Tell him about the dream." I was there. I heard that. I mean, what a watershed moment in the life of this country. And what a wellspring of hope for that young woman and the thousands that stood by in rapt attention. Next month, I will be 85 years old, and I, of course, obviously, was that young woman, and that was 53 years ago. That day, Martin's dream became my dream. Actually, it became our dream. That moment buoyed my confidence. Hey, I can gather the stones, the ugly words, the names that had been hurled at me: spick, garlic mouth, pierced ear. I can choose to harness the hurt and turn it into energy. And I remember thinking to myself, I can rise above the roles I am assigned to play: the Indian squaw, the Arabian princess, the Lolitas and Conchitas. I am fully American. I can live the dream. And by God, I can do it in my own skin. You know what? There will always be stones and those that hurl them. And there will always be those who are vulnerable and in need of a shield. I applaud, support, and commend your effort on their behalf, MALDEF. For this acknowledgement, which I don't have in my hands, but it's at my table. I'm told it's heavy. For this acknowledgement from this amazing organization, perhaps the best way I can say thanks is to continue with you to fan the flames of justice and work to keep that dream alive. Thank you.
And continue we will, Rita. That dream of justice is still alive today, and it's because of inspiring leaders in our community and organizations like MALDEF that we keep the fight going. And now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing a leader who has dedicated his life's work to advancing Latino rights in our country. He's one of our nation's most respected and experienced civil rights attorneys, and he's responsible for many of MALDEF's most renowned settlements and courtroom victories on behalf of the Latino community. Here's MALDEF President and General Counsel, Thomas Saenz.
Thank you all for joining us for this MALDEF Online Extravaganza 2020, an online event made necessary by the pandemic that we've all endured throughout the year, and that necessitated the cancellation of all of our events, the well-attended, supported galas in Washington, D.C., Chicago, San Antonio, and Los Angeles. So we are left with joining you online. I hope you've enjoyed this event, and I want to begin by thanking John Quinones for serving as our host, for helping us to explain the MALDEF story, for helping us to present these important clips of past MALDEF honorees from our galas throughout the country. I hope you've appreciated from these clips that they epitomize the strength, the courage, the creativity, and the leadership of the Latino community. They are a fitting end to this challenging year of 2020 as we look to a future, not just beyond this pandemic, but changed in so many other important ways. I also want to thank all of our sponsors of tonight's extravaganza, including in particular our lead sponsor and chair of this event, Verizon. Thank you for your long-term partnership. And of course, I want to thank all of MALDEF's staff, which has faced not just the challenges, continuing challenges, of responding to the Trump administration, the most anti-Latino administration in our nation's history, but they have done so by having to work at home, in isolation often, with their only communication with colleagues and clients by video conference or telephone. These are presented challenges to all of us, and I am pleased to report that our MALDEF staff has maintained its commitment to the task and mission of our organization. Finally, I also want to thank the MALDEF Board of Directors, also affected by this pandemic in having to cancel its in-person meeting in April in Phoenix, Arizona. The board has pivoted to Zoom meetings as an alternative to in-person. But we all recognize that it is a pale alternative, preventing us from the kinds of in-person interactions, from our board members bringing their professional expertise and their geographic perspective to the discussion of the future of MALDEF and our mission of promoting the civil rights of all Latinos in the United States. And of course, I want to thank all of you for being with us in watching this online extravaganza, but also for your ongoing commitment and partnership in promoting our mission. As we look forward to 2021, in this end of a decade year, we look forward not just to the end of this pandemic, to the end of the recession that it catalyzed, but also to a new era. Traditionally, years ending in zero have been a time of celebration for the Latino community, as the decennial census recognizes, reaffirms every decade the increasing importance of our Latino community to every region and virtually every state in the country. We recognize that from that census count, we will see increased political representation and other representation of our community in the future. As important, we recognize that we will be acknowledged by pundits and other commentators, including our nation's leaders, as a result of the census. But as we leave this 2020 year, we know that the census of this decade has perhaps been the most challenging of all, mainly because of attempts by the Trump administration to limit the count of Latinos in our nation. It began, as you all are aware, with the late inclusion or attempted inclusion of a citizenship question on the census household questionnaire. That, fortunately, through the efforts of MALDEF and many others, was prevented when the Supreme Court in June of 2019 directed the administration not to move forward with a citizenship question. Of course, we had evidence then and now that demonstrates the sole reason for adding the citizenship question was to reduce, to deter the participation of Latinos in being counted in Census 2020. But when they were dealt that defeat at the Supreme Court, the Trump administration issued an executive order requiring the Census Bureau to create a database of citizenship through other means, namely state and federal administrative records. The sole purpose of creating that database is to again permit those who might choose to do so to discount huge portions of our community in redrawing electoral district lines. Specifically, the point of the citizenship database is to allow those who choose to do so to attempt to equalize the population of their electoral districts based on voter population rather than total population. That means discounting all of those in the Latino community and other communities who are under 18 and not yet of voting age. It also means discounting entirely those who have immigrated and contributed to our country, but have not yet, in part because of insurmountable barriers for many, have not yet naturalized and become citizens. MALDEF continues to fight against the creation of that citizenship database through ongoing litigation. And in this year, 2020, we faced more recently, beginning in the summer, an indication by Donald Trump that he would seek to discount entirely the millions and millions of undocumented immigrants living in our states, contributing to our economy and building families in each of those communities. He indicated by a memo in the summer that he would seek to subtract the entire undocumented population from the population numbers used after being provided by the census to reassign the 435 seats in the House of Representatives. These efforts, the citizenship question, the citizenship database, and the discounting and apportionment of the undocumented, can only be characterized in my mind as an attempt at statistical genocide. Those are harsh words, but I know of no better way to describe an attempt, documented attempt, to target a particular racial or racial groups for statistical elimination or reduction by having millions of people disappear from the census statistics. That's a measure of the challenge we have faced under the Trump administration that affects directly the census that each decade has been an occasion for celebration of the increased recognition of our Latino population. I'm confident that our 2020 census numbers will nonetheless, despite those challenges, demonstrate the increasing importance of our Latino community. But those challenges in the census are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the very serious challenges we have faced under this anti-Latino Trump administration. And one note of hope for all of us, then, lies in the decision last month by America's electorate to reject a second term for this anti-Latino president. We applaud the popular vote that rejected Donald Trump's leadership, and even the vote in the arcane Electoral College came out the right way by rejecting the anti-Latino racist leadership of this president. So we look forward not just because of Census 2020, but because of the incoming new administration that will have the opportunity, with Latino participation, to reverse so much of the damage done under the Trump administration. We know that that task of reversing the damage will not be easy. I've characterized it as beginning with the Cheetos approach, where you look for orange fingerprints, much like those you get on your fingers from eating Cheetos. We look for orange fingerprints on policies in the federal government and eliminate those policies. But that will not be enough. Merely eliminating the Trump-induced policies is only the first step toward redressing the damage delivered not just to Latinos, but to poor people, other racial minorities, religious minorities, women, and the LGBTQ community throughout the nation as a result of Trump's leadership. We know that we will have to take steps to redress those with enduring harm as a result of those policies. This includes those who may have had a family member unjustly removed or deported from the country particularly for many after substantial numbers of years where they have clearly been adjudicated as non-priorities for removal from the country because of the family and other community connections they have built. We will have to provide reparations, compensation for those who face long-term harms from children being separated from parents, from children being detained long-term under deplorable conditions in detention. We will have to address the long-term post-traumatic stress created for so many children and others with a cloud over their heads each day, fearing, with reason under this administration, that they could have a parent or other family member precipitously arrested, placed in detention, and removed from the country. Beyond that, we will have to identify and address the harms done to so many in the Latino and other communities as a result of the implicit and too often even explicit endorsement of a white nationalist supremacist agenda by this presidential administration. We have our work cut out for us. But in the Latino community, our work goes beyond simply addressing the enduring harms of this administration's policymaking to taking the steps necessary to prevent a future candidate from undertaking the path that Donald Trump followed. He launched his campaign in the middle of 2015 with a slander against Mexican immigrants. He furthered it a year later by accusing a sitting federal judge of bias against him simply because that judge is Mexican American. And we saw an unending barrage from day one of this administration of tweets and other statements that implied that the Latino community was disloyal, unneeded, not worthy of inclusion in this national experiment. The enduring harms of that kind of rhetoric will have to be addressed. But Donald Trump was able to follow that path because of a vacuum of information. He was able to produce and promote a false narrative about the Latino community because too many of our fellow Americans who don't live in close proximity to Latinos, who therefore don't see on a daily interpersonal level the loyalty and the contributions of our community to the United States. In the absence of that, they look to media and other portrayals of the Latino community. Only there they have too often found an absence or severe underrepresentation of our community, with the results that there is little narrative about the long-standing and ongoing contributions of our community. Whether it's our single-digit representation among those prominently featured in television or movies, or our virtual absence among pundits talking about the news, including news and policies relating directly to the Latino community, virtual absence of Latino commentators, or our underrepresentation in corridors of leadership in industry after industry, from our corporate boards to higher education leadership to leadership in too many other endeavors. Some of that vacuum, that underrepresentation, has been exacerbated by the Trump administration. We are leaving an administration that currently has no Latino represented in its cabinet. You would have to go back decades, to find the last time the largest minority group in the country, a status that Latinos have had since 2003, to find the last time the largest minority group in the country had no one in the cabinet of the United States. That's a result of the Trump administration. This administration, in an arena very close to MALDEF and its work, that has managed to put forward and confirm one, and only one, Latino or Latina to any court of appeals in the country, with the end result that too many circuits, including the 7th Circuit, where Illinois and its significant Latino population is prominent, and the 5th Circuit, where Texas is the dominant state with its 40% Latino population. These two circuits have currently no active Latino or Latina judge hearing cases. Despite those continued exacerbations of our underrepresentation, our task is beyond ensuring that the Biden-Harris administration has representation in its cabinet. We already know it will because of at least 2 nominations announced so far for the Latino community in the Biden cabinet, but also advocating for more judicial nominations around the country, and particularly on our courts of appeals by the incoming Biden-Harris administration. But our task goes beyond that to address the ongoing absence and underrepresentation in too many sectors of our community. We must undertake to ensure that there is no longer a vacuum that permits any candidate at any level to create and to promote a false narrative about our Latino community. This is our task, and it is a daunting one, but one we know in particular after enduring the discriminatory disparities we've seen under this pandemic and under the recession that it catalyzed. We've survived that. We've daily seen laid bare what we all knew existed, the systemic inequities that have unfortunately ensured that our community has been overrepresented among those harmed, both physically and directly by the pandemic and indirectly by what it has done to our economy. We've come out of that. We enter 2021 at the tail end of that and with an expectation that we will be able to address some of those inequities. Our task goes beyond the anticipated end and recovery of the pandemic and the beginning of the end of the recession, with an opportunity to address some of those disparities laid bare by the experience. Our task includes, though, making sure that that ongoing severe underrepresentation in corridors of influence and power across the country is addressed to prevent any candidate in the future from taking the path chosen by Donald Trump, creating and centralizing a false narrative about the Latino community. But we know that we have the strength, the courage, the resilience, the creativity, and the leadership to take on this challenge. We can and will undertake a future, a path that we will create that leads us all as a nation to respect for the constitutional and human rights of every person living here and who seeks to live here in the future. We undertake that task recognizing that no matter how daunting it may appear, filling that vacuum, addressing those inequities, ensuring greater and universalized respect for rights. We undertake that task knowing that 2020 just added to our long history of working together within the Latino community and with allied communities to ensure that America's future is a future respectful not just of the Latino community, but of all communities. At MALDEF, I pledge, on behalf of our leadership, on behalf of our staff, on behalf of the courageous clients we represent daily in court and in legislatures, that we will commit to doing the hard work together with all of you to really create that path that will lead our nation to a future of greater respect for all, a rejection of the policies and the rhetoric of the Trump administration, a recognition of the importance of the Latino community. We are poised to move from being seen and heard, from making demands, to being entitled. I use the word entitled, a term not often used for our community. And in this case, we're talking not about any individual entitlement, often characterized as applying to some other communities, but a community entitlement, earned by our toil, by our blood, by our courage and our resilience. An entitlement earned, an entitlement to a government, to a nation, to a society that represents us all, respects us all, and accords human and constitutional rights to all. As we leave 2020 with all of its challenges, as we transition away from the anti-Latino Trump administration, 2021 is a year of not just challenge, but promise for us to reach that path of entitlement for all to a government society that respects us all. On behalf of MALDEF, I look forward to working with each and every one of you to hew that path, to create that future, a future where the constitutional rights of all are not just respected on paper, but in action, a future where every individual, from the most recent immigrant to those who trace their origins in this country back generations, a future where we can join together in recognizing and acknowledging that we have achieved a United States that is true to its principles and acknowledges the contributions of all. In the Latino community, we take on that goal in partnership with all of you and look forward to working assiduously in 2021 and beyond to achieve that great American goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Your dedication and service to MALDEF is so greatly appreciated. On behalf of myself and everyone here, we deeply thank you for your leadership. It was such an honor to host MALDEF's first ever virtual event. I thank each and every one of you for joining us in this celebration of MALDEF and its work in the Latino community. No matter what they may say of us, we will continue to be essential workers, frontliners, teachers, doctors, nurses, and even lawyers and journalists. And we're all part of this great country, America. We've gotten this far through determination, resilience, perseverance, and ganas, right? Remember, when times are tough, we're never alone in this because MALDEF stands to promote, protect, and defend our civil rights. Again, thank you for your continued support of MALDEF. Stay well and healthy and strong until we are able to be together again in person. We hope to see you again soon. Salud.